What's up, print fan? Welcome back to the print shop. Jonathan from the Facebook group asked that I make a video on my workflow of business cards for the Konica and Duplo to the Duplo. I have a fiery and a fiery impose, so I'm going to show you the steps I take to do that. I already have the templates made, but I am going to make them from scratch so you can see my process of doing that. So let's jump right in. So the first thing we need to do is make the actual file, which business cards are 3.5 by 2. So I always do mine 0.25 bigger. So 3.75 by 2.25. Let's make it so you guys can see the whole thing in the screen here. So usually when I'm, don't forget, usually when I'm designing, I will make a square, and I will make that square 1/8 of an inch smaller. So 3.5 minus 0.125 and 2 minus 0.125, and then I'll center it. So that's kind of my safety area. And usually I'll make that just 100% magenta, and I'll have that be on its own layer. You could also make one that is like the actual cut if you want to see where the edge is. So 3.5 by 2. So we've got the bleed area, the cut, and the safety. So from here, I would do my business card and make it whatever color, whatever font. So pretty simple. You can make stuff go off the edge, whatever. I put my artwork on the wrong layer. Usually I will lock the layer. So have this. If I'm doing the second side, then all I do is I come and make a second artboard so that this is side 1 and this is side 2. In this case, we will just do a single-sided card. From here, I send a proof off to the customer for approval, get it back, and turn the lines off. And you want to save it as a PDF. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll open up my fiery impose. So I've got my single-sided business card in here. Normally I would go right-click, click impose, and then it will load the impose side of the software. Let's see if we can fit the whole thing in here. So normally I would just click up in this box and I'd go pick my template, which is a business card, single-sided. But we are going to start from scratch. So we're not going to save this. We're going to do impose. My mouse is way faster than my machine. So we have a bunch of options here in the impose. The first thing you want to do is gang up so that it's going to gang up the card. You want to do whatever size of print you're doing. So in my case, I do 12 by 18. We also want it to be repeat in this case. And we want it, for me, I do 3 rows and 7 sets. Some people can fit another row, but for whatever reason, I cannot. When I print, the bottom section of my paper does not print very well, and so I only do 3. So from there, if you were doing a double-sided, you do duplexing on. I leave it on portrait. Sometimes I'll do landscape, but in this case we'll do portrait. Define the gutters. This is basically the spacing between the cards. I usually do 5 millimeters if it will let me. Sometimes I'll do as few as 3. I think on business cards I normally do 3, but standard layout. As far as this, it's 3.175 millimeters is the 1/4 of an inch. Defining the offset. So this is the offset from the top, which you'll need for the Duplo, as well as the side. So I usually try to make it kind of as close as I can, but I also like to do even numbers, or whole numbers, I guess, not necessarily even numbers, but whole numbers. So 15 from the top, 10 from the bottom. And then marks, come here to define. I like to print the trim marks. I like to print on the front only. I do like to offset them 5 millimeters. And then registration, I do print typically the registration and the barcode. Because it's this way, I want the registration mark in the top right hand corner. I leave it 5 millimeters away, and then the barcode is whatever you'll want for the Duplo. So you'll want to like have a list or keep a list of the programs. My business card template is 1, but in this case we'll do 80 since that's like my temporary testing one. So we can see that now it added all of the print marks, and they're 5 millimeters offset so that it doesn't get in the way of the actual print. And I think that's all I do. I do no scaling. The offset was defined. So typically at this point, what I'll do is I'll take a scrap piece of paper, or in this case, a napkin, and I will literally draw this. I don't know how I'm going to draw this so you guys can see it. There we go. I will draw the piece of paper. So that's 12, 18. I usually do something like this for like my gutters. The offset was 15 millimeters and 10 millimeters. So that's usually how I kind of reference this. And then it's also going to be job number 80. So it's a 12 by 18 piece of paper. The front offset is 15. The right offset is 10. And all the gutters and stuff are 5. So then I take this with me over to the Duplo. Kind of the last thing here, if I wanted to save this for future use, I'd click save. You can give it a name so that you can quickly reference it. Like I said, I do everything by numbers. Since my Duplo can have 80 programs, I try to have it be the number and then kind of a brief description of whatever the program is. So the size, double-sided, single-sided, etc. In this case, I am just going to close it since I don't need to modify it. I'm not going to flatten it. I'm just going to leave it inhaled. And then we'll double click this to open up the properties. We're just going to change it to grayscale to save me some money. And we're going to print it on some cardstock. So we'll get that printed and run over to the Duplo. So we're going to do standard 1218. The registration marks are 5 millimeters. You can hit tab on the keyboard and it will automatically go through. This is typically the only thing that I don't have memorized. What the? Go away. So I usually will click the inch to millimeters because I know what it is in Imperial. So 3.5 by 2, then I'll turn that back off, and we're 3 and 7. The lead trim is 15, side trim is 10, and then everything is 5. So, and then I'm not going to do any creases or perforation. So that's why I keep my napkin with me or my paper, so that if I don't remember the measurements, that I have it here as reference. So then I would click next. For some reason, my software always like switches to the wrong piece of paper. So I would re-switch to 1218. Click download. Are you sure? Yes. You sure you want to replace number 80? So now job number 80 is ready to go as soon as it prints. So now that it's printed, got my business card. I typically always run 1218, so my cutter is just prepped and ready to go. Click the green button. Normally I will print one sheet, make sure everything is fine, and then I'll print the full order, even if I've already done the template before. For business cards, I also found that this tray works great. Just move it all the way up and it can stack about 500 cards. So just, oh, my gutters are up. It's gonna be noisy. So that's how it works. Now, that's just the way that I do it. Could be wrong, could be right, but it works. So that's what I do. I wasn't really taught by anyone. I had to figure it out on my own. So that's what I do. Hope it helps. If you have any additional questions or comments, or you know of ways to do it better, let me know. I'd really appreciate it. So, as always, Print Fam, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.